Here we go. We are live on Facebook. Thank you everyone for being here today at Monica Campana with a special series of people helping people. And today we have a wonderful lady who has an incredible experience in her life. Her name is Katrinamrubin. And she is going to tell us we're going to talk about mainly celiac and Lyme disease and nutrition that comes accompanied to these two special conditions that she's going to tell us how she discovered in her own life, her path, the path that she took to overcome many difficulties, and now she's helping others. So Katrina, thank you for being here. The floor is yours. Tell us
Oh, well,
about yourself
thank
and
you.
your background.
First of all, thank you, Monica. I think it's very nice that you have this platform for people. And I appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone else does too, just to educate and to be able to share our stories. It's so healing and it's also helping others. So thank you, first of all, for that. And my story, I was a fairly healthy child growing up, a healthy teenager. I really had a few illnesses. And then after the birth of both my sons, I have two boys. I call them boys, but they're men now. I had a couple things, but nothing that I pinpointed as anything wrong. And then I had a series of things in my 50s that kind of accumulated, environmental factors. And what I want to stress here is the first subject I'm going to be talking about is celiac disease, because that's the first thing I was diagnosed with. And
How did you discover that you
well,
had this disease?
celiac disease, a lot of people carry the genetic markers. They're the HLA DQ2 and DQ8 genetic markers. And actually many people have them, but only 1% actually develop celiac disease. So what that tells me, and from speaking and working with the Celiac Disease Foundation and just knowing a lot of people that have celiac, is that it usually is precipitated after a event, either a stressful event in their lives or a bacterial or viral event, maybe even in childbirth, or an operation. So it's something that triggers in the body. And I had several of these different events, kind of were like the perfect storm. But in children, a lot of times celiac, they're born with it. And it is something that presents mostly with gastrointestinal, sometimes mood disorders in the children, dental enamel irregularities in the dental teeth. They can tell that way. So dentists would be able to kind of maybe warn parents if they see a lot of problems there. And so they usually get tested and find that pretty quickly.
Soon in life.
Yeah. But when you develop it later on, it sometimes is harder because it affects more than your gastrointestinal. It can affect your neurological, your brain. It did me. I had ataxia, which is loss of balance. And I also had a lot of neurological symptoms. So there's a lot of things that doctors don't normally look for. And as I always say, I looked great on paper. They took lots of tests. I went to all the ologists, as I call them, and I loved all my doctors. But they were like, we don't see anything here. And the only thing they saw was low vitamin D. And that's another thing that people need to know about celiac, is that it causes destruction in, oh, what happened here?
Yeah, we lost you for
Oh, I'm
a few
sorry.
seconds. It's okay.
It causes destruction in the small intestines. And when this happens, your microvilli, which is what absorbs your nutrients, they're no longer able to. So many people with celiac disease have nutrient deficiencies because, especially fat soluble vitamins, they're not allowed, they cannot absorb those things. And that's why my vitamin D was so low. I was always in the sun. I took tons of vitamin D. It was my only clue. I went in and I said, look, I don't know, this might be just off the wall, but what do you think about testing me for this? And my rheumatologist looked at me and he said, well, I didn't think of that. And that's the problem. A lot of times doctors don't think of this as something that would be other than a lot of gastrointestinal issues. But that's another clue. When you're not absorbing foods, when your poop floats, nobody likes to talk about poop, but you know, it's another sign, because it's all the fat that's there. It's not digesting. So we did the blood test and it came back positive. The next step is always to see your gastroenterologist, who will do an endoscopy. It's called the gold standard of being sure that you have celiac disease and not gluten sensitivity. And even though they can present with very similar symptoms, they are different. One is an autoimmune disease that you never get over. Gluten sensitivity, you can develop it, but it is not harming your body. It can create inflammation, but it's not forming antibodies that attack your intestines and other parts of your body, proteins that look like gluten. And gluten, just in case anyone is wondering, I think at this point most people know what gluten is, but it's wheat, barley, rye, and oats, unless the oats are gluten-free. Anyways, you go in, you get an endoscopy. It's where they put a probe down your throat and you're taking a biopsy of certain areas in the duodenum, which is a certain area of your small intestines. And it's a good idea to make sure that you do take several, because it sometimes can be missed. And I guess I caught it fairly early on, because my gastroenterologist said he didn't think I had it just looking. But when the biopsy came back, it was positive, just like my blood test. So he says, oh, you figured this out all by yourself.
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
I said, yeah, well, you know, it was luck somewhat on my part. And you get foggy brain, you know, with a lot of these things, with Lyme also, which I'll talk about next. But it's hard to do your own research when your brain isn't working well either. But when you're not feeling well, and I know those people out there that have gone through this, you have a lot of time to look and read.
So what were
And
your symptoms, where you were also like not focused, you didn't have energy overall? Like what were the other symptoms that you...
the main symptoms were gas. I would get gassy. Sometimes I would eat something and I would have pains in my joints, or I'd get neurological pains immediately. A lot of people with celiac disease don't even notice it sometimes. So there's quite a spectrum of people. I went to the research center in San Diego, and she Dr. She's no longer there, but she was part of the CDF. And she said, you know, you might not think you're lucky, but you are, because you actually react quite quickly to it. And a lot of people don't. And then they go on to develop stomach cancers and other more serious conditions because they're not even aware, or they think they can have just a little once in a while. And each time you do that, you're actually starting from the beginning and you're destroying your gut. So that brings me to what I help people with. A lot of people don't realize that it's a whole new lifestyle
Exactly. So
change.
you had to change. I mean, when you had the confirmation that you had it, you had to change drastically
Right.
your
And
diet and your lifestyle.
absolutely. And it really encompasses everything. People think, oh, well, you just don't eat gluten. And that's what I thought too. I thought, well, you know, okay, I don't eat that much carbs. It's not that much of a problem. But then I didn't realize I couldn't put things in the same microwave. I couldn't use that wooden spoon that I used to use before I had to clean out all my cookware, because if it was scratched, there could be tiny little particles in there that would keep me sick. That going out to eat would be like extreme eating, just like extreme sports. You'd have to know how to talk to the waiter and know how to explain it, because a lot of people didn't, you know, I'd say celiac and they'd give me a blank stare. So what I recommend with a lot of people that I help, just tell them you have an allergy. And then check again when they bring it, because there's a lot of miscommunication between the kitchen and getting it to you. Makeup, you have certain things, lipstick, licking stamps. I mean, there's so many things people don't think about. And each time you do one of these things, you're sick for several weeks. And even if you're not feeling, some people don't have long-term illness from it, or they can't even feel it for a week or two, and then all of a sudden they feel sick and they don't even know what caused it, because it doesn't always automatically cause it for some people right away. So I try to make it very simple so they don't have to go through all these mistakes and they can heal quicker. I have a list of all the different things to look for on packages when you're buying prepackaged food. I give them ideas on recipes, ideas on how to handle just going through the transition and actually just redoing, and how to explain it to your family and how to work within your family unit with this.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
you have basically, I think it's in the, we put it in the, people can contact you. They you have a website and you have, right? People can get in contact with you
Yes.
and you basically follow them. You have program to
Yeah, what I do is I set up a support program. We used to have through Celiac Disease Foundation, which is still a wonderful group. They have once a year, they have specialists and doctors and education, and they have the latest research, and they have it in Pasadena. And it's really nice because they have all the vendors that do gluten-free, so you get to get a lot of free stuff. And you get educated. And it was like nirvana for me when I first went, because I was like, everything was gluten-free. You didn't have to ask, oh, can I eat that roll? Can I eat that? You know, it was very nice. But I work with people as to support them, to give them the resources, because there are good gluten-free products out there and not so great gluten-free products. And because I've had it for so long, and because I'm very strict with what I will put in my body, I really can make lists and tell people, look, these are the ones. And it does not need to be expensive. People have a misunderstanding about eating gluten-free. It's said, oh, it's so hard and it's so expensive. It's actually not. If you're eating whole foods, the one that Mother Nature puts out there without the labels, and there's very simple recipes. And then there are, of course, we all crave, you know, a bread or a crunchy something, but let's at least eat something that has only a few ingredients in it, and the ingredients that are in there are healthy and not making you sicker. So that's
Wow.
what I do. Yeah.
Wow. Now you also have Lyme disease?
Yes, I developed Lyme disease about 4 years ago. I may have had it previously. A lot of people have it and they don't even realize it. I think more people have it than they realize it.
And how did
But, you
you,
know,
yeah, how did you, oh,
but most people, what I will say to this is that we all carry microbes and different things like chicken pox that don't bother us.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
of
live
course.
within, as long as our immune system is, you know,
Strong.
handling it
Mm.
right. It's strong. It's not compromised. Um, then they all, and you're not in a situation where your environment is causing a compromised immune system. Mold can do that. So can chemicals. Um, And I unfortunately was in a house that had a lot of mold.
Oh,
So
no.
that did cause some
And is
issues.
that like, and how did you adjust to that? I mean, what can you do
Well,
to make
I
it?
didn't know what it was. And my son actually had been having a lot of joint issues for quite a while. And he was sick before I was with the joint issues. I had the celiac, but he had the joint issues. And I had gotten my boys tested, and he does not even have the genetic marker, so I knew it wasn't to do with celiac. But I figured out the Lyme. I had gone to a doctor, and with Lyme, when you get bit by ticks, mosquitoes, you can get it a lot of different ways. Um, they are like a dirty needle. So it's not one thing you're getting. So you're getting a lot of co-infections with that. And depending on how virulent the co-infection is, that's what your body's going to want to try to get you back into homeostasis first and attack. And the thing that I had with Lyme was Babesia, which can be quite harming to you. It's a cousin of malaria.
Hmm.
And so I had a lot of night sweats and headaches and anxiety and panic attacks, and I
This
didn't
was
know
you
what
or your
was.
son?
This was me.
Oh, wow.
And so I didn't know what was going on. And luckily, the doctor I had been taking my son to, who was a rheumatologist and an immunologist from Russia, he had a little more of an idea. And he says, I'm pretty sure you have Babesia. And he tested me through IGeneX. And that's the other thing. I just want to briefly touch on this. There's a lot of testing out there that's good and bad. IGeneX, I would say, is one of the better ones. It is expensive, of course. And some of the testing is just fine depending on when you catch it. If you catch it in the acute, the early phases of being bitten, you'll more than likely get accurate
But if it's been a
results.
while, then
But if it's been a while and your body doesn't produce the antibodies, it's more, the doctors always say they go more on symptoms versus they use testing to kind of confirm things, but they know that they can't rely on it, and that they haven't really changed the testing since the 70s. So unfortunately, there's so many species they know of tick-borne diseases that have come out, and co-infections that are not even being tested for. So how would you even know? So bottom line, though, you can spend a lot of money on testing and
not get anything out of it.
And not get anything out of it. So what I say is that you want to start with the basics, and that's what I try to do with most of the people that I work with. Diet is one. You want to get out all the sugar, and you want to really get on a whole food, nutritious diet. Foods that don't bother you, because everyone has certain, and when you have things like Lyme or celiac, you're going to have more leaky gut, which also causes more inflammation. So that means that you're going to have to figure out what foods work for you, what works for one person. Right, exactly.
And do you believe that there are certain foods that really can help increase your immune support?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, all the things that are
you like did you become are you vegan or
I'm not vegan. A lot of people I know are. It's a little more difficult when you're celiac.
Yeah, it's like what can you eat?
Like, what do you eat?
Two things.
Everybody's like, bring me a cup of water.
I know.
Right? Yeah, that's why. And also, I knew personally, the funny thing is, when I was going through this, I was working with a functional doctor at the time when I didn't know I had celiac, and he had done some food allergy testing, and I told him what I thought I was allergic to and what I thought I could eat. And he says, you were spot on. You know your body. Not everybody does, but I could tell. He says, you're a real protein baby, meaning I do well with protein. I do well with, but not everybody does, And so I do eat meat. I do eat fish and chicken. I limit, when I do eat meat, it's only grass-fed. I don't eat it often. I eat a lot of fish, so I probably should have gills. But that should be a small portion of your diet, and the rest, are what we all know. Our parents told us: fruit and vegetables, and certain ones are better than others. Berries are great, and green leafy vegetables. And I go into that.
You talk about well, you had a very disciplined life, right? You were in ice skating, correct? You were
Yes, I used to ice skate when I was younger.
In a very, so probably the nutrition and discipline, you're very strong minded.
I think your body, this is what I tell everybody that I work with, because it's hard to make changes, and especially when you don't see results. We're used to getting a pill right away and masking symptoms and not really getting at the cause. So then another symptom pops up, and then another symptom pops. So, and we don't ever put it together. It's like, the blind man with the elephant.
You delay the
delay, denial, all those D's. So I don't know how disciplined I was, but I do know that I like to feel good. And I want to be able to think clearly, and I want to be able to live my life. It's not about living longer. It's about living better and healthier and feeling good while you're doing it. And a lot of those things are just not things I would do. I always ate healthy, and but a lot of things, if I wasn't in a position where I absolutely had to, it probably wouldn't be getting done,
Exactly.
I always but once you feel better, what you need to do.
You said that you started feeling better, right away, as soon as you changed your diet, and
I'll tell you the 5 things I think are most important, and this is what I work with: diet, because that came with celiac, but I've always thought diet was important. It's just that we're not always educated correctly, and everybody keeps changing the rules, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
learn more and more as we go along. Environment, living in, not using chemicals in our household, getting plenty of fresh air, being outside, having clean air to breathe. These are basic things, not having homes, unfortunately, that have mold a lot of time. And some people are more bothered than other, and there's genetic factors in that too. And whether or not you already have pre-existing conditions. So there's food, air, exercise. Everybody has different forms of exercise that they like, but do something, you know. There's so many wonderful ways. There's yoga, there's, I do rebounding because it's great for the lymphs, because you want to clear your lymphs. It's another way of helping you. So those are three. And then fourth is herbs and supplements. And unfortunately, a lot of people with Lyme, you know, they have like boxes of supplements they've tried, and it just feels so wasteful and so frustrating, because you're like, maybe this, maybe this. So I was lucky. I decided to do a lot of reading. I read Stephen Booner's books on herbal healing, and that's instinctively felt right for me. So that's the direction I went. And a lot of it for me was instinct, but a lot of it was also, we call it instinct, but it's also, if you put in the time of learning, you figure out what works best for you. So I do certain herbs that support organs in my body. I do hawthorn that supports the heart. I do red sage and it supports the lymphs. I do milk thistle and that supports the liver. And I'm not saying each of these herbs will work for everyone, because everyone has certain allergies. But the lucky thing is that they work synergistically. So they work together, and there's plenty to choose from. So if one doesn't work, another one will. And the last thing I will say is that stress, you know, as we all know, is not good for anything. So you have to find a way to have
release
some,
it in a healthy way.
yeah, some way to activities or something that brings you pleasure, and a good sense of humor once in a while helps a lot. So
Of course.
yeah, and just realizing that this too shall pass. You know, it's a lot of stuff. And I did leave one thing out. I guess I should have said 6, but I kind of included it in one area, and that's detoxification. And it's kind of included with the herbs. But you do want to make sure that everything, even before you start treating, especially Lyme, that you are able to get rid of it, that you're able to sweat it out through saunas or pee it out, poop it out. You got to get it out, you know, because if it keeps recirculating, same with mold, you're going to keep being sick. So there's lots of different ways to do that. And that's what I tried. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Katrina, our time is up, but I want to keep talking forever with you.
No, I know. There's too much. I can't.
There is so much. And
yeah.
And I'm sure that we will see you again, because, you know, this is very, well, it's inspiring. And, you know, to all the people out there who don't feel 100% and they have certain symptoms, you know, maybe, you know, you should check. And Katrina is an expert. She's not a doctor, but she's almost a doctor in this
I just didn't get my degree. I go and talk to doctors, and they actually ask me to explain it.
Yeah.
The ones that are nice.
So I thank you very much for being
Thank
here with
you.
us. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
your
I
information.
enjoyed it.
And
Yeah.
again, Katrina's information is on the post below. So if you want to contact her, please do so. And I'm sure that we will see you soon again.
Yes,
here.
and one quick thing, I just want to tell everybody that watches your show that I am offering a free consultation and health evaluation to anyone for the first 45 minutes, free of charge.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much,
Thank you.
and we'll see you soon, okay, Katrina?
All
And
right.
to everyone, thanks for being here, and we'll see you very soon. Mwah. Ciao, everyone.
Ciao. Thank you.
Thank you.